Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. A growing number of congressional Democrats now say the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE, are out of control and must be shut down. An opportunity to defund the government agencies is approaching, as I'll explain in a moment. But first, the ICE killing of Renee Good in Minnesota has triggered intense Democratic reactions.
Killing of Renee Nicole Good was an abomination, a disgrace. And blood is clearly on the hands of those individuals within the administration who've been pushing an extreme policy that has nothing to do with immigration enforcement connected to removing violent felons from this country. We support the removal of violent felons from this country who are here illegally. But that's not what this administration has been doing under the so-called leadership of Kristi Noem, who's a stone-cold liar.
Several Democrats are so infuriated by Noem's lying and DHS mismanagement that the lawmakers are now eyeing a crucial funding deadline. As the FA News reports, federal funding for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agency that committed murder in Minneapolis on Wednesday will run out at the end of this month unless Congress authorizes new funding. The same is true of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, which includes ICE, and the leader of which tried to cover up for the murder and called the victim a terrorist. Without new congressional allocations for 2026, both DHS and ICE would have to shut down after January 31st. Several progressive Democrats say they will move to do just that. Democrats cannot vote for a DHS budget that doesn't restrain the growing lawlessness of this agency. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut. I cannot and will not support any funding for Trump's ICE operations. Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat from Maryland. We can't just keep authorizing money for these illegal killers. Rep. Pramila Jayapal, Democrat from Washington. Statements and letters are not enough in the appropriations process, and the CR, continuing resolution, expiring January 31st is our opportunity. Rep. Delia Ramirez, Democrat from Illinois. We should be opposing the hundreds of billions of dollars going to a lawless agency. Rep. Ro Khanna, Democrat from California.
Some of your colleagues are threatening to shut down the government right now over the fatal shooting in Minneapolis. Given the fact that we saw the government shut down over these subsidies, I mean, is this a road that Democrats now want to walk down again?
The Appropriations Committee, and particularly the committees on Homeland Security, are taking up this issue, and they will have a very important and serious discussion about it.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer saying there will be a serious discussion is not the same as Schumer saying he supports using the congressional power of the purse to rein in DHS and ICE. And what about House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries?
And we all are outraged by what took place in Minneapolis, and we will respond decisively.
In my view, that decisiveness should include holding up DHS and ICE funding. Not to permanently shut down the agencies, that would be politically impossible, but rather to demand specific changes. Democrats should insist the funds will not be released until all agents are wearing and using body cameras, and that agents are being better trained on constitutional rights, and that DHS and ICE provide more transparency. Transparency, though, is a dirty word in the Trump administration, and we've just seen that again in this case in Minnesota.
The FBI is now taking sole control of this investigation, banning the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension from having any access to the case materials, to scene evidence or interviews.
That means the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, an agency created by the state legislature to assure there's coordination with state and local authorities, that agency will not be part of the investigation into Miss Good's killing. This will be an FBI investigation only with no state involvement.
Statement, according to the Minnesota state investigators, is that the FBI reversed course, that this initially was going to be a joint investigation, and now they've said the FBI will handle it themselves. That is very unusual. If you look at the Butler assassination attempt on President Trump, that was a joint investigation. The killing of Charlie Kirk, that's a joint, local and federal investigation. And that's how most investigations like this go forward. There are sources and resources that local law enforcement has that the federal government doesn't. So this is very, very unusual. And, there'll be a lot of questions about why is FBI Director Kash Patel doing this on his own.
Is Kash Patel doing this on his own because he wants to protect and whitewash the Trump administration's ICE agents and management? Well, it certainly looks that way. Donald Trump and Kristi Noem both blamed the victim for getting shot and insisted the ICE agents did nothing wrong. Minnesota officials, including Governor Tim Walz, say those claims underscore why state and local law enforcement authorities should participate in the investigation.
And I just want to make this as clear as possible to everyone. Minnesota must be part of this investigation. These are nonpartisan career professionals that have spent years building the trust of the community. There's a BCA Force Investigations Unit that was created by the legislature, by the people of Minnesota, to provide an independent, consistent, and trusted mechanism for investigating the use of force incidents involving law enforcement officers.
Back in the White House press briefing room, reporters asked Vice President J.D. Vance why state officials are being excluded from the investigation into the ICE agent, and Vance was defiant.
The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous.
The question was, why couldn't Minnesota officials participate in the investigation? But Vance keeps choosing to smear the woman who was killed and defend, at all costs, the ICE agent. Never mind that even conservative legal experts, including Judge Andrew Napolitano on Newsmax, say the agent should face a criminal trial.
If he is charged with a crime, as I think he should be under Minnesota law, a jury will decide this. If the jury inferred that she tried to avoid him, then his shooting of her is criminal. If the jury infers something else, then it would depend on what the inference is. But a jury is going to see more than I saw. A jury is going to see a variety of tapes that I don't think we've even seen because there are so many home videos.
However, the Trump administration could easily block criminal charges by keeping this investigation bottled up within the FBI. And for now, the administration seems determined to protect ICE no matter what the public sees or thinks. All of this underscores why Democrats need to take a firm stand and use their budget leverage to get concessions out of the Trump administration. A one-sided investigation with no transparency and no reform of ICE or DHS is simply unacceptable. And if that continues to be the administration's position, no changes whatsoever, well, Democratic lawmakers should defund ICE, DHS, and the rest of the government if necessary. To quote columnist Paul Krugman, American fascism is on the march, and anyone who balks at saying that clearly, who makes excuses and pretends that Trump and the people he brought in aren't monsters, is deeply unpatriotic. If we are to have a chance at saving democracy, our first duty must be clarity. No sane-washing, no both-sidesing. Only facing the horrible truth can set us free. And that starts with Democrats in Congress. Lawmakers should state clearly and firmly that regarding ICE agency funding, the time has come to shut it down. By the way, one of Donald Trump's fiercest defenders in Congress, Republican Jim Jordan of Ohio, just got fact-checked to his face about Venezuela's role in drug trafficking.
What fentanyl and other drugs have done to some families that I get the privilege of representing, helping deal with that, I think is a good thing. And Americans recognize this for decisive action that makes a difference for us and, frankly, for Venezuelans.
Right. You know, fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela. And there's definitely...
Posing up to China and Iran, which are part of that, certainly does.
Actually, most fentanyl also does not come from China and Iran. Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular from Canadian Smoker wrote, "How many sons and daughters of Americans are going to be sacrificed for Donald's coffers? Coffins for coffers." I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about Democrats threatening to shut down government funding for DHS and ICE. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.